we all know that GarageBand for iOS is easily the best piece of free music software ever designed. Anyone who's got an Apple product, whether it be a desktop or a phone or an iPad, has this application. It's fantastic. Now I've got my iPad here running GarageBand for iOS, and the drum sounds on it are great. You've got a choice of kits. Not only that, you get some dynamic control out of the pads. There's the kick drum, for example. However, you get more dynamics if you connect a keyboard up. Let's take a look at that. So this keyboard is just a little 2-octave keyboard with a USB on the side, and with the little camera connection kit that goes into your iPad, it allows you to play the sounds via a controller, which is a little bit more reliable. Of course, touchscreen is still very good, and you can get a rhythm like this on the iPad. But you do get that sort of slight re-triggering sometimes. Now, with a keyboard, you get much better dynamic control, and not only that, you're going to have fewer re-triggering problems. Now, the kick drum, for example, if I just really lightly tap, it's okay. The difference between loud and soft is much better when you hit on a keyboard. You can get the quietest sound using just this, and it's a fairly lightweight, very cheap keyboard. If you had the weighted keyboard here, you get even more control. Now, with the snare, it depends where you hit the snare on the pad, on the iPad itself. You hit it at the bottom, you get the click, you get the sort of cross stick, which is actually C# on your controller. And again, you get much more control with that. The normal snare drum is D, and then E gives you the snare drum with a sort of a rim shot with it. So you can, to a certain extent, get snare fills. It's not quite as realistic as some of the more expensive drums, but hey, this is free. This is £0 and 0 pence. And of course, we can change the sound on here as well. If I go to, I don't know, 4 on the floor, for example, the sounds, of course, will change when you strike the keyboard. You get real dynamics with that, whereas here, it's not bad. There is wider dynamics available on here. Now, the only trouble, of course, with editing in GarageBand afterwards, you've got to go through all the notes and go through the velocity and all to make sure that everything is right. Whereas if you have a controller that you're comfortable playing and you play live, not only do you get some rhythmic sort of human feel, but you also get much bigger dynamic range. Now, on the hi-hat here, if you tap the top of the hi-hats on the iPad, we get this sound, which is the sound of the hi-hat actually closing with just the foot, so no sticks involved at all. And then open hi-hat on A#. And then we get the toms on the other keys. Crash cymbal is on C#. Ride cymbal on D#. With various other sounds when you hit the sounds in the middle. You get a few other things as well. There's toms up here so you can concoct fills. The only trouble is on the GarageBand, you can set this in the settings, but when you hit the crash cymbal, it puts a bass drum with it. Of course, you can switch that off, but actually, that's kind of common sense. Usually a crash cymbal is going to be at the beginning of a bar, and therefore it's going to have a kick drum. But if you don't want that, playing it on a keyboard will essentially just play the crash cymbal without the kick. And there it is. There's a very cheap way. I mean, these are about £25, and it also means that you can play all the other sounds on GarageBand as well, and you've got other things like arpeggiators built into something like this, which will actually control some of the sounds. But really, for drums, if you've got something that you can play in that's a bit more convenient than the screen, you can really achieve some fantastic results.